Hey guys, and welcome to Project First Gen, my project to restore my 1988 Toyota Hilux Surf for my USA cousins. You might know that as the 4Runner First Gen. Here she is in the background. This is a second day in the new garage. The new garage has just been finished, so I rolled her in. She's been sitting in the backyard for about 10 years, hardly been started, but a couple of days ago I hooked a battery connector up, a jump starter, and turned the key and away she went. All good, so yeah, first day in the garage. So today what I've done is, I wasn't sure on the condition of the diesel in the tank, so I went out and bought 20 litres of fresh diesel, and I got some of this liquid engineering fuel set. It's a fuel system conditioner, kills diesel bug, cleans the injectors and absorbs water and stabilises the stale fuel. So that combined with 20 litres of fresh fuel, I've put that in it, started it up, ran it up to temperature for about 10 to 15 minutes just to let the fuel go through the system, so that should hopefully protect the fuel system during the period that I'm doing the restoration. So I've got a few parts and bits and pieces that have come off it over time. So the first thing I'm doing today is I'm going to pull the battery out. There's a bit of rust underneath the battery. I've also got some new parts to actually secure the battery to the car. It was being held on by this bungee cord for about the last 20 years. It's never had a proper battery secure thing for the whole 20 odd years that I've owned it. So I managed to source an original Toyota battery clamp from Japan. I'll put the website in the link. I think it was about 20 bucks. They couldn't get me the whole assembly, so I've had to go to a local parts store and just buy a generic clamp and pilfer the other part off it. So but those are the bits there. This is also the factory battery tray, which is a bit weird because it's really tiny and there's no way my battery's going to fit on that, but it does have the little bits to put it in place. So I'm hoping that I will be able to cut the edges off it and make it fit for my requirements. So that's what I'm going to do today. The bigger project I've got going is trying to find the source of the leak underneath the dashboard. It's either around the windscreen, so I've got one of these bonded windscreens, so I've just started taking the trim off, or it could be one of the seams down in underneath the cowl. You can see there's a bit of rust here, and I think there's water getting in around this grommet here because there is rust on the inside. And when it rains and the car's been outside, I've had water down both the passenger side and the driver's side. The passenger side's always leaked. The driver's side seems to be a new thing that's only just sort of started. I've only just noticed it the last couple of months, so obviously it's getting worse and time to do something about it. So I've got a few things on the go. As you can see, I took the left side fender off a couple of days ago. Didn't do it properly, didn't put any lubricant on the bolts, and half the bolts sheared off when I was removing those, so I've got to try and drill the ends of those bolts out and get new bolts, otherwise I can't put the fender back on. So that's another job that I've got to get organised, but obviously I can't do any of that until I've got the leaks behind the dashboard completely sorted out. Other than that, what else am I going to do? Well, a full restoration basically. So you'll see it's had a bit of a hard life. Looking underneath, there's quite a bit of rust underneath. I don't know if you can see that how clearly you can, but if I go around the front, you'll see it is quite bad, but nothing structural. I don't think. It's all just quite bad surface rust, but half of that is because I used to do some pretty hardcore four-wheel driving, and I used to go down to the beach all the time, so it definitely needs some love under here. But I have some plans for what I'm going to do. There's a company in Auckland called Auto Blast that does full media blasting on the underside to remove all the surface rust and debris, and basically strips it back to clean bare white metal, and from there they'll galvanise the entire underside, and the third part is an epoxy finish. They reckon they warranty their work for 65 years, which should be enough, I hope. Yeah, so that's about where we're at. So the underside obviously is going to be done, and then I plan to do a full panel and paint restoration on the body to basically bring it back to showroom condition, or as close to showroom condition as I can get it. There's a few hurdles along the way. Parts are not that easy to find anymore, particularly here in New Zealand. So as I said earlier, the parts that I've already got I managed to secure from a website in Japan, but they don't have everything. In fact, they don't have much. So, and there's not a lot of these being wrecked in New Zealand. They're pretty rare now, so getting parts, or decent parts anyway, is going to be a bit of an uphill battle. But I've got a lot of trim pieces I want to try and get and put back on. These rear window surrounds, they're not too bad, but they have got a bit of rust, and they're starting to flake. I don't know whether I can salvage those. I do know that there's a company in Canada that does fiberglass replacements, so that could be an option. We'll look into that. Window rubbers, again, they're all a bit perished. They're not too bad, but they're starting to shrink, and I know just up here, I don't know if you can see that this one's shrunk, and I would say that's now letting water in. But all in all, it's not too bad. But as I say, I've got a heap of parts I've got to get. Here's the interior. All you guys in the USA will be a little bit confused because everything's on the correct side. You guys won't be used to having everything on the correct side, like the steering wheel. Here's the back. It's got a few bits and pieces in it, but the interior is actually not too bad. I've got the center console here, which obviously needs replacing, but all the plastics and bits and pieces are all pretty good. I've managed to secure a new fascia for the air conditioning thing there. You see there's a couple of holes in it, so I've managed to source one of those. But yeah, all the upholstery is not too bad. Like even the driver's one is it's a bit worn, but it hasn't worn through. Probably testament to the fact that the vehicle has only done 102,423 kilometers. So for you guys in America, that's about 60,000 miles. So that will be because I think I bought it, it had about 70,000 kilometers on it, and I've had it 20 years, and it's never been my daily driver apart from a very short time. So I only had it for the first 10 years. I really only used it on the weekends, four-wheel driving with the club that I was in, and during the week she was parked up, and I had another car that I took to work. So so that was the first 8 to 10 years, and then the last 10 years I've been driving around in Ford Rangers and doing a bit of four-wheel driving in my Ranger, and this thing has literally sat in the backyard for the last 10 years, and so that goes some way to explaining why the mileage is so low. So that's the story really. So the idea is to bring it back to a factory spec. I may put a little bit of extras on it, just to bling it up a bit, but I just sort of want to keep it as original as possible and keep it as a Sunday driver, because I know these are appreciating in value pretty quickly. I know in the States the old 4Runners, the first gen 4Runners in good condition are commanding good prices, and even in New Zealand here the JDM imported Hilux Surfs are starting to go up in value, particularly the first gen ones, and they're very hard to get hold of. We've got a nationwide site called Trade Me, which is similar I guess to Craigslist that you guys have in the States, and it's a nationwide buy and sell website, and if you look on there now, I think from memory there is only one of these for sale, and it's in pretty poor condition, and the guy wants, I think he offers over 7,000 New Zealand dollars, which for what it is pretty expensive. From memory I paid $3,000 for this back in 2001, I think it was, 2001. And as I say, briefly used it for a daily driver, but apart from that, she spent a lot of time parked up. But when I was driving it, it was so fun to drive, really amazing, really enjoyed it, and I thought about selling it a few years ago because it was just sitting in the backyard doing nothing, but I couldn't bear to part with it, so here's where we're at. I've decided that now's the time to do a full restoration and actually finally enjoy it, rather than just have it rot away in the backyard, because it's just too sad. So yeah, so this is the first of many videos, I hope. I'm certainly no expert in car restoration, and I'm not a tool junkie, so I'm just a ordinary everyday guy with a desk job, but I'm going to do my best to do what I can, and obviously anything I can't do myself I'll be outsourcing to professionals, so I imagine that will include the panel and paint, although I might do some prep work. But the panel work is actually not too bad for a truck that I used to do pretty hardcore four-wheel driving in. The body's actually pretty straight. There's a few little dings here and there, but even though I went on some pretty hardcore four-wheel driving, I was always fairly careful, because I don't like wrecking stuff. So well, there's another trim piece on the mirror that I've got to find, and yeah, the motor seems to be pretty strong. It's the 2LT turbo diesel, so the 2.4 litre, goes pretty well, and it's fairly underpowered. The turbo could probably do with a overhaul. It doesn't seem to boost that much, but it never really has, but it could be because it's probably fairly tired, and I imagine hasn't really had that much work on it over its life. So again, the engine, I don't know, I'll get I've got a mate who's a mechanic, so I'll get him to check it out and go over it pretty thoroughly and tell me if there's anything that needs doing on it, and if so, I'll get that done. But given the mileage, 102,000 kilometers, I don't think it's going to need an entire tear down and rebuild. I don't think we're at that stage yet. It could probably go another 100,000 Ks before it needed that. So yeah, anyway, that's the first video. Hit subscribe and tell your friends, and tomorrow we'll probably get into it. But as I say, the first thing I want to do is probably whip that battery out and just make sure the rusty metal under that battery is taken care of. And then, as I say, the windscreen has a crack in it, so I've got to replace the windscreen in order to get it roadworthy anyway. So I might as well whip that windscreen out in the next few days and see what the seams are like, or the pinch welds around the windscreen, and see if there's any leaks or rust in there. And then, as I say, we'll keep on working to try and get rid of the leak under the dash. So hit like and subscribe, and stay tuned for more videos. Cheers.